Welcome to another edition of our unique NUFC podcast. Another week in the GCC sunshine. This time the city of Dubai has seen Eddie Howe and his team get down to some serious training and more bonding in the fight for Premier League survival. Speaking of fights, our guest today is Tynesyde's only world champion, and I for one couldn't be more excited to welcome him to Black and White with Arab News. Before we meet today's special guest in the red corner, let me welcome my champion of sport and esteemed sports editor of Arab News. It's Black and White's own Ali Khaled. AK, how are you, mate?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. I'm running out of these superlatives for you. I've managed I think we're into about 20 odd episodes now, and now I managed to find one for you every week. Listen, it's great to have you back. I want to get straight into it before we meet today's guest, but being in the Middle East ourselves, it's been a pretty intense closed shop training camp, from what I understand, and with a couple of defeats lately, Ali, there's still work to be done, isn't there?
Yeah, I think as everyone knows, Newcastle and Eddie Howe are here in Dubai at the moment. It is a closed shop. There's no access to watch the training and do interviews and all that. We have been lucky enough through our correspondent Liam Kennedy, who's based in Newcastle, to get some exclusive stories and then some comments from Eddie and some of the players. He's been really pushing the angle of bonding and forging friendship on the strip. A lot of the injured players are there as well, like Trippier and Wilson, although they're edging closer, but they're still a bit away. But they're over here, as are some of the players who are not in the 25-man Premier League squad. And Eddie Howe specifically mentioned, this is working hard, but also like a team bonding exercise. I think being out here in the sun, the weather's perfect. It's a good one. In terms of the results, you're right. I think like the last two games, been a bit downbeat after that long unbeaten run.
Result-wise, maybe not performances.
Yeah, performances have been good, and also I think there was a period of about 3 months where we kept saying, must win this. Every game is an absolute must win, and I think that run took them out of the relegation zone. There's a decent gap of 9 points, so you can't say the games at the moment are must win. But obviously, like the quicker they get back to getting some points, and as I said before, I think 3-4 points should be enough. I think this season.
We'll take that. Okay, massive welcome to today's guest, the former IBF World Cruiserweight Champion of the World, Glenn McCrory. Glenn, before we get into our shared love and passion of our hometown city, tell us what you've been up to lately.
I work for Fight Zone, which is a boxing channel, which is in its infancy, but is making great grounds. We've got a couple of world champions. Hannah Rankin is ladies boxing. She's storming ahead with her world championship. So that's been taking my time up. Obviously, always a keen eye on Newcastle United, as everybody around me is, because it is the big news, and we can sort of rest easy a little bit with a fabulous run of wins we've had. And yes, we slipped back to normality a little bit, but the performances have still been good, so the results haven't gone away. But I mean that is football, and that is going to happen. But there's a lot to be happy about now, isn't there? And I've been, like yourself, Peter and Ali, I've been through when you go to the matches and it's just disappointment after disappointment, and you kind of learn to live with that. To have some hope, and to have some hope that people talking about is like things are going to change, things are changing, and that's thanks to the takeover, and it just gives you something to be happy about, because we're all so passionate about the tune.
Absolutely. Ali, a boxing fan yourself, and I mean, but those that can't see, because it is our podcast, the picture of the greatest behind you. So pretty apt of today's guest. I just wanted to take you back, though, if you think about it, Ali, for our age group. that era of Glenn and the mid 80s, early 90s, it was boom time for boxing then, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I grew up, obviously in the 80s. So I caught the end of like the Muhammad Ali era. Obviously, like my dad was a big fan of Muhammad Ali. So like I grew up with him like being a big influence and a big inspiration. But really, like my memories are of like the like my strong memories of watching boxing is from from the mid 80s. And that great era, which I'm sure Glenn would remember very well, of Mike Tyson from like about 85 to 89. When he fought all these Michael Spinks, Larry Holmes, James Bone Crusher Smith.
Ali, I was chief sparring partner.
I know that. I know. We want to get onto that.
Larry Holmes, Spinks. I remember it very well.
Yeah,
Still got the lumps.
Yeah, see, like this is like the era I remember so well, and I know that you were sparring with him, which is absolutely incredible, and we will ask you more about that. So I had that memory, but also like I was living in the UK in the late 80s and in early 90s, and I would watch a lot of boxing. It was a good time for boxing there. I used to watch the ITV show. I think Jim Rosenthal. I think Glenn, you can correct me on that. And so even like it was like there was the heavyweight boxing, obviously the Mike Tyson era, but there was Nigel Benn and Michael Watson and Chris Eubank. I remember those three. It was like a good time for boxing in the UK as well. So and obviously Lennox Lewis came out later. I have to admit that in recent years I probably haven't kept up as much with boxing as I should have.
Yep.
But certainly that late 80s, early 90s era was fantastic for boxing.
I think Ali, people, you can speak for a lot of people when you say that, myself included. But Glenn, let's just take a moment to remember Tynesyde's only world champion. Does that still sound as epic today as it did then?
I think it still is as epic because I'm the only one. So it was great times. It was great times to be, to be in this area because boxing was at the forefront. I was in Gateshead. I won the Commonwealth title in 1987, the British in 1988, defending my titles there. I then had, won the world title. And in Gateshead again, I had a young man called, Lennox Lewis on my undercard at one point. So, we were making some big noises when I mean, I remember it's surreal because it was in my home, my village, just of Stanley, and it was Dickie Davis was doing the show. Jim Rosenthal was doing, and it was the Saturday Night Fights. Massive on ITV with millions and millions watching, and I won my world title as a massive underdog, and it's absolutely surreal because Dickie Davis finishes the show off and he says, well, it's done in Stanley, on Tyneside. We've had the first ever world champion in Glenn McCrory, who's beaten the odds and come and won, become the first world champion in history in the Northeast. And next week we go to Las Vegas for Hagler. Hagler and Tommy Hearns and Hagler. So, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns. It went from, and it was the only time Stanley has ever been in the same breath as Las Vegas.
Oh, fantastic.
Glenn,
go on, Ali.
We need to ask the question. What was it like sparring with Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson at his absolute peak, getting in the ring with him. What was it like?
It was scary. It was amazing. It was one, because coming from the Northeast and then going off to Atlantic City, when Mike Tyson was just, he's just a little bit younger than me. He's about a year younger than me. And this young kid, he's a kid. I was 20, 21. I'm going out there, and he was, champion of the world. He was crushing everybody. I mean, it was amazing. So obviously there was a lot of anticipation because I was thinking, how is he doing that? He's the same, roughly the same age as me, and we're both very, very young, and he's beating everybody. So, I was thinking, well, nobody younger than me can beat me. So there was a bit of anticipation, but you knew how good he was. And then when you were out there, it was unbelievable. We were in, Donald Trump would be there at the sparring sessions. We were in the Trump Plaza on the Broadwalk. I'd be getting up in the morning. There'd only be, the spawn partners would all be in bed. I'd get up, and the only person that was out before me was Tyson. And it's when you're doing sparring, it was as tough as any fight I'd ever had in my life. It was, and you'd be doing maximum probably 4 rounds, and there'd be other sparring partners like Oliver McCall, who's a world champion, James Quick Tillis, who's a world title contender, James Broad, world title contender. It was a camp of top line fighters, and he'd be going, he'd be really laying people out. The spawn partners came in every day, and you never even got to know their names because he would just destroy them and they'd get sent home. So it was very tough, but it was good when you got Mike's respect. And it was different. I was the only white kid there, so it was there was that as well. So there was we're all fighters. So there was what could have been tension, but it wasn't. I got Mike's respect, and I know if I bumped into Mike today, he'd come and give me a big hug. Every time we've met, and then so that was a great part. That was a great time. I also commentated on a lot of his fights as well, so I got to see the other side of it. So it was a great time, and one of the proudest things I am is sort of having that time as Team Tyson was an amazing time, and I've got so much respect and care for Mike. He's always been great with me.
Brilliant. Did he ever have a night out in Anfield playing?
No, no, never.
Imagine that.
Never got this far.
Brilliant. Okay. Speaking of knockout punches, Ali, we're going to move swiftly back into the football. 3rd of April is the Toons' next bout. They go to Spurs. And as I said, as I hinted at the top of this show, I don't want to be the merchant of doom, so to speak, but 2 defeats could become 3. And then you sort of start looking at the back, as well as they're playing. Facts remain facts that they could be defeats, and you sort of start thinking, looking over your shoulder again, Ali, and you don't want to get dragged back into that fight, so to speak, do you?
No, you're absolutely right. I just think that it's not the time to panic either. Even if it's a defeat, and we shouldn't assume it is, but even if
Spurs are going well, they're looking good.
Spurs are going well. The last few games, they've looked. Harry Kane is playing brilliantly. I mean, the link up with Son is gets getting better and better. They really are amazing, the two of them up front. But like I said, I don't think it's a time for panic. Even should Newcastle lose, they did like a lot of heavy lifting, as we say, with that 8-match unbeaten run and a lot of wins in it, which is not just draws, So having that 9-point gap with Burnley in the 3rd of the relegation spots gives them some breathing space, and I think that Burnley have a couple of tough games coming up as well. I mean, I know Watford are playing Liverpool, and Burnley are playing Man City. So everyone's having tough games. So there's absolutely no guarantee they're going to get any points out of those 2. So I don't think it's time to panic, even should they lose. However, after that, I think it starts to get maybe they come out of that long run of away matches, and there's a few home games which
they've got 3 on the spin. Yeah, so
and also to get players back, to get the Wilson trip, to get good players, which is gonna happen. We just got to remember that the teams below us are playing worse. So the gap is the most important thing as we, and we are going to gain some points. Yes, we always knew there's a rough part of the season, which we're in now. We're playing some good teams. But you got to take heart with our performance against Chelsea. The way the team fought all the way. The result, is what it is. But it's the way they played and the way they fought. And I think Eddie Howe's got so much confidence behind him now, and that's so important. If you've got a team and they're all out, with you over there, and they'll be building. They'll be, it's all about the teamwork and as a team and as a bonded, and that's going to be great. That little trip out there will do them wonders. Bit of sunshine, that'll really help them.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn mentioned, really the two most important points at the moment is the gap, 9 points, and the teams below are not playing, anywhere near to a form that's going to take them outside. We've already said, I think, Norwich and Watford pretty much gone. Like, we look at Burnley at some point. I thought maybe they're the ones, but they haven't been anywhere near putting on a run that Newcastle have. And, and that's, it's a big gap, mate. Like I said, the next match is Man City.
Okay. So basically, what we're saying is to our listeners is that it's all right. Ali and Glenn have sorted it, and we haven't got anything to worry about.
Job's
jobs are good. Speaking of good ones, Glenn, listen, I know from your time with us on Hollywood Balls, our other show, that you were a decent player. So a football player, why the choice of the gloves over the ball?
With me, it was about. Football was my sport. Obviously, from the northeast, it's got to be. That's what you're born into. On you're on black and white and Supermac and all. It was just it. My hero. I'm from. My family are from Ireland, and my hero was a personality. I kind of, as a kid, you get my little boy runs around with his. He's at Wolves End Boys Club, my 7-year-old, and he's got Ronaldo. He wears a Man United shirt. I've got to say he's not with me. But because Ronaldo is such a personality, that's So I was the same, but mine was George Best. I love Bestie, and maybe he's copied him in too many things outside of the football. We'll not talk about, but Bestie was a great, and then. I just loved everything about him. He's such a personality, like my son does Ronaldo. But then along came a bigger personality, and you got his name as well as his picture up on the wall, Ali. And Muhammad Ali came. I saw the Foreman Ali fight, and he was just he was supposed to get smashed, supposed to get defeated. He came back and he pulled off an unbelievable win, and as a kid, that just blew my mind. And my great uncle being a fighter, my grand who was managed by the Shepherds, actually, the Newcastle boxing, football and boxing, the Shepherds were, and he was managed by them. So boxing was in my family, and it was a natural progression. I still carried on with both sports, play for the district, play for the county. And then I think the thing that topped the whole lot off, I got a trial for Sunderland, and I thought, enough's enough. That's it. If it had been Newcastle, I got a trial for, that could have just swung the career. But I played one of my friends who I played alongside, and I got offered the trial with Barry Venison, great lad, played Sunderland, England, so I was at that level. I was at that. I could have most definitely could have been a professional footballer. If I'd put as much concentration into it as I did my boxing, who knows where that would have went. But Muhammad Ali, the greatest sportsman of all time. Well, the greatest sportsman of all time. I mean, he did it, and I had one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was as a young 19-year-old undefeated heavyweight boxing, and about my 5th fight in London, I'm in the ring, and the guest of honor was announced, and it was Muhammad Ali, and that was just amazing. But what was even better was after the fight, there's a knock on the dressing room door, and it's Jarvis Astaire, who's the promoter, and he said, "Listen, put your boots on. Muhammad Ali wants to meet you." And Ali asked to meet me, and it just showed what a wonderful, wonderful person he was, to make my day, and that was something that I'll never ever forget. And he was fabulous.
And Glenn, I just got to go back to you. You mentioned watching Ali beat Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle, like 74. That's what made you fall in love with boxing and decide to go take that. That, I mean, we talk about football every week, Pete, and all that, but surely that's the greatest moment, in any sport, really. I mean, when they make it, it's hard to compare across the different sports, of course, and there's been many amazing in football and other sports, but surely the greatest comeback and one of the most iconic moments, knocking out George Foreman there. And so if you're going to pick a career on the back of something, you picked absolutely the greatest moment in the history of sports.
And also,
yes.
Ali, if Glenn had gone through with it, so Sunderland have a large part to play in it. If it wasn't Sunderland, Tyneside wouldn't have a world champion. So there you go. So we're all winners. We're all winners.
Don't give the Mackems any credit.
Brilliant. Ali, it's time for a few modern day heroes. So let's look. You touched on it briefly. Let's look at that run post Spurs. We've got a run of 3 home games on the spin, as I said. You've got Wolves, Leicester and Crystal Palace. All tricky encounters. They are home games. But yeah, I mean, Wolves have had a resurgence. Leicester look a little bit better under Brendan currently, with Maddison pulling the strings again, and Crystal Palace. Wow, they're full of energy with booking their Wembley place. So 3 tough games there.
Yeah, very tough. But I think if you look at all those 3, certainly Wolves are going for Europe still, but perhaps there's not as much to play for them as maybe some of the other teams that are like a little bit in danger, or the ones who are like really vying for the top spots, So I think with Palace, not sure the dates it falls on, but their head might be, they might be thinking about the semi-final, Wembley, so that might work in Newcastle's favour. I think Leicester have been quite inconsistent. A home game there, I can see Newcastle definitely getting something out of that. Wolves have been tough, but look, I mean, again, Wolves have been inconsistent as well. You saw the game against Leeds. They had a player sent off, but they were 2-0 up, player sent off, and lost 3-2. I don't think. I think all 3. I'm not suggesting Newcastle are going to win all 3, but all 3 are definitely winnable. And you'd think, I don't know, like 5-6 points from those games.
Be a good return.
Yeah.
Glenn, you touched on this before, just slightly, and I wanted to sort of embellish on it a little bit. As a Geordie, you can relate to the upturn in positivity which Eddie Howe's brought. I mean, it's something that you've having known you and followed you, it's something that is one of the keys to your outlook is positivity. It's got to be. Now, little things that he's done that you said, the team have come together now. You see these photos after the game, come what may, in the changing room together, with them, all together. So that the upturn of that and the takeover itself, it's really brought the city up, hasn't it? After a terrible period of lockdown for everyone.
A lot. Obviously sport, but form, being in good form, that's about how you feel. That's not just about that's about bonding together, becoming a team, having the backing. How hard must it be when everybody is sort of saying, we're rubbish, it's just negative. Now that reflects on the team. It can't not. So they're battling against that. And forget about their opponents. They're battling against that negativity. Now all of a sudden, people are actually talking about what we're daring to dream, aren't we? We're daring to dream Absolutely. About what's going to happen, because once we get to the summer, and the squad's going to be strengthened. We've got the money to do it. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. With the fans we've got, I don't know if there's a better fan base in the world than the Geordies, So with that behind the team, everybody else knows we will be a danger. We will be a threat, and people know that. And it's just great for people to be talking like that, because that is going to rub off. The players hear that, the squad hears that, Eddie Howe hears that. Yes, you don't want to get carried away, but all of a sudden it just adds to it, and then dare we say, St. James's may get even bigger, which will be amazing. Will be amazing. So there's good things ahead. We've got to keep focused and keep the eye on the job, and that's why I like Eddie Howe, because he's very down to earth. He's got a good grip on the players. He's young, and he's got some vitality in there, and he brings a lot. He's bringing a lot to the squad.
Hey, Glenn and Pete, I just want to mention, carry on from that point about Eddie Howe's work, and everything has been so meticulous. I mean, he speaks so well. I remember when he was in Saudi, we managed to get a few minutes with him over a conference call, and he was great. And this, Pete. I don't believe in the new manager bounce. This mythical new manager bounce that everyone talks about. And the great thing with Eddie Howe was that when he started, the results didn't improve, straight away. But there was no panic. That's what I really liked. There was no panic. He basically said, "We're going to play on the front foot. We're going to improve things at the back." They've signed very, very well. I mean, the players they've signed have really been excellent, and the improvement has been gradual. And then I think the result that turned the season against Leeds came just before their trip to Saudi Arabia. Everybody went away on a massive high and came back, and there was that long unbeaten run. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 6 wins and 2 draws. I'm not sure, and took them away from danger. So the improvement has been. You can see the actual improvement all along. Remember those first couple of months we kept saying, "Well, he's run out of time. He doesn't have the time to to bed in and take his time." And but there was no panic from his side, and there was no sort of fake manager bounce just because he came in and all that. It was all very meticulous, very well thought out. The tactics have been spot on. And that's why, despite those last 2 wins, I don't think there's any need to panic, or even whatever happens against Tottenham,
Ali, I keep reminding my great mate who you've had on here, John Gibson, who's, black and white, he's part of the furniture. And, it's only, a couple of months ago, I was sitting with John on our normal weekly meal, and it was like, what getting excited about the takeover and this sort of stuff. He said, we physically can't stay up. It's never been done. So, when you look at where we were to where we are, it's massive. So we've got the rest of the season. So you think, yes, there'll be hiccups, and yes, there's good teams, and but it was doom and gloom. I mean, that's he was saying we can, it's never been done.
Yeah.
That a team can stay up from that position, and yet look where we are now. So what else can we do?
Yeah, we all thought that as well, and when it gets near the end of the season, clubs that are stuck in the bottom, you start doing the math, and you're saying, well, we need to win 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 7. Well, you're actually down there because you haven't been able to do that at any point during the season. Yeah. That's why teams are at the bottom. I mean, it sounds so obvious, but it's that inability to put any run together throughout the season that keeps you there. And that's why most clubs, in the end fail when they say, all right, we need to get 4 wins out of the last 6 or the 7. But Newcastle have done it. That's the brilliant thing, is that
the other teams don't look like they can.
And they don't look like they have any ability to do it. And Newcastle have already done that big run that's going to save the season.
And so, you're talking, Ali, saying we will get some points. We will get some wins. And on our day, we're going to beat anybody. On our day, if we got the right team on there and a bit of fitness, we're going to beat anybody. You wouldn't be surprised any victory.
No, I think
absolutely.
Pete, I'll give it back to you, but just one last point is I know we do I'm not going to do any predictions today, but we've been doing predictions and all that. Tottenham game very difficult, a point would be great, but as I said, even a defeat would not be any need for panic. Then the 3 home games, I think those 3 home games, Newcastle would secure will absolutely secure their safety.
Definitely.
Great stuff. Glenn, can't let you go. I've got one last question for you. And it's something that I want you to expand on for us. So you mentioned briefly, when I asked what you were up to at the top of the show, you mentioned Fight Zone. So, from Fight Zone, are you sort of on the lookout for boxing's next big star?
I think for me personally, I'm yes, we are, but I'm always from the northeast. I'm always looking. I'm always got an eye on. We've got Tommy Hodgins, a young North Shields kid. Wears black and white strip, and he's got he's called the Hitman Tommy Hodgson, and he's exciting me. He just boxed on Friday at the Hilton Hotel last week and put on a really good performance, and he's going to go on to bigger and better things. And I still want to see a local kid from Newcastle, from this area, it's St James's Park on a big, massive fight night. That's I wanna as well as seeing the Toon win silverware, I want to see boxing, buzzing and back where not back where it should be in on Tyneside. It should be. We've got some good kids coming through. And I want to see that. I want to have in my lifetime. I want to see when I still enjoy it. I want to see the town booming with boxing and football, because that's its history. It had a great history back in its day. Seaman Tommy Watson, people like that of fighters in the day, and then football. We want to see that back.
Can imagine a weekend, a championship weekend of football and boxing. It would be absolutely superb.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Glenn McCrory, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have
Cheers,
you
Pete.
on
Cheers,
the
Ali.
podcast. And we'll speak to you again really soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pleasure to be on.
Last word, as always, goes to our very own Ali Khaled. And what a word it's going to be, Ali, with great tidings for Saudi Arabia, right?
Absolutely. Saudi Arabia have qualified for the World Cup in Qatar later this year. Actually, in the end, they were in a very good position anyway. In the end, qualification was confirmed without them actually playing. Australia, who were sort of the closest challengers, lost to Japan 2-0. So that meant they couldn't catch Saudi Arabia. Japan have confirmed qualification, and Saudi have confirmed qualification as well. Later on in the evening, Saudi Arabia, playing in Sharjah actually, against China, drew 1-1. It was actually quite a competitive match, considering nothing was riding on it.
Saudi were in control during the game, though, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I think they were in control and should have won. And they were leading 1-0 till relatively late on, and they got a penalty against them. I don't think anyone was too upset with it, But
no.
there was some tackles were flying and all that. But I think it was tension-free, shall we say? In that qualification had been confirmed. The players were quite, seemed to enjoy it at the end. Giving some of the interviews, everyone seemed quite happy, and they could start planning for Qatar. So. Yeah, big week for Saudi Arabia. I mean, it was expected. They've been quite dominant in the group, but it's always great to get over the line.
And also, Ali, football aside, absolutely fantastic for the kingdom to be part of this World Cup, isn't it?
It is, and it is the 6th time they've gone to the World Cup, which, for a golf team is by far the best record, but also for many Arab teams from Asia is Saudi Arabia have consistently been the one to carry the flag. Obviously from Africa, there's some teams like Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria have had decent records, but we don't really get that. We haven't had that many from the Gulf except Saudi Arabia, and they were there 4 years ago in Russia.
Yep.
Before that, it had been a gap of 12 years, but they're back now, and again, 2 World Cups in a row is great. It's a great sort of generation of players. Some really, really good players, and they were disappointing last time out, although they beat Egypt in their last match. But I think they're a little bit more optimism this year, and a great coach as well in Hervé Renard, the Frenchman. I think it's very, very positive. Saudi Arabia have Al Hilal, who are the Asian champions at club level, and now they've gone to the World Cup. It's looking pretty positive.
Yeah, so it's absolutely a celebratory podcast because things are going well in Newcastle, and great news from our city and country of Saudi Arabia, of course, which is going to be fantastic. So a World Cup to look forward to for the kingdom, progress to look forward to for Newcastle, a wonderful guest in Glenn McCrory. That's it for another episode, Black and White with Arab News. We'll see you next week. How are the lads?